Baruch Hashem. Today's Daf Yomi is Zevachim Daf Samach Gimel. We're recording this from a car in front of the Museum of the Moving Image, Queens. We're just at the OL, and here's the Daf. So we're going to start with the Mishnah on the top of Samach Gimel Amid Aleph. So we've been discussing until now in the Parakoche Kodashim different karbanos. Now we come to the karban mincha. Menachos hayu nikmatos b'kol makom ba'azara. So a mincha is a grain offering, and the kmitza is that before you could eat from the grain offering, the kohanim had to take a kmitza. They had to scoop up the flour in their 3 fingers, have it totally level, and then put it in a pan and bring that to the altar. And then the rest of the shirayim could be eaten. So the menachos could be eaten wherever they were, kol makom ba'azara, any place in the courtyard. V'neachos lifnei menachayim. And it had to be eaten inside the azara, inside the courtyard. V'zichrei kahuna, only the male kohanim, like kachei kachim, could eat it. B'chol machal, whatever way they wanted. Liyom v'layla ad chatzos, for day and night up until chatzos. So then the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Lazar, mincha shenikmatza behechol kshera. Let's say for whatever reason they did the kmitza not in the courtyard. We said it could be done all over the courtyard, but they did it in the sanctuary itself. So Rabbi Lazar says it's kosher. Why? What's his proof? Shekematzinu basilik bazikin, because we find by the bazikin. What's the bazikin? The bazikin are the spoons of lavona, of frankincense that were on top of the lechem upon him. That was the equivalent, according to Rebbe Lazar, of the kmitza of the mincha, and that was done in the sanctuary itself. Look at Rashi. Shehein askara la minchas lechem upon him. They are the askara for the mincha of the lechem upon him. Like it states, "Vayisol lechem la askara matirin as lechem." That's what they allow the lechem to be eaten, the lechem upon him. V'siluchon me'al shulchan upon him shebeichol b'makom kmitza de minchas. So Rashi says it's the equivalent, according to Rebbe Lazar, of the kmitza, and that was done in the sanctuary. Rabbi Yirmiyah challenges this. Masav Rabbi Yirmiyah. It says v'kamatz misham. It says in the pasuk about the kmitza that Bnei Aaron HaKohanim will bring their mincha v'kamatz misham melo kumtzo misolta u'mishamna. So it says in the pasuk v'kamatz misham, and the Brisa says b'makom sherago yazar omdos. That means, what does it mean? What do we learn out from the Kamat Misham? From the place where the Zar, the non-Kohen, is able to stand, i.e. in the courtyard. Because earlier it says, Ve'ivia Zar b'nei Aaron HaKohanim, the Zar will bring it, and he'll bring it, and I'll bring it to the place for Kamat Misham, which implies that Baalam Omdim Sham, that the Baalam, the non-Kohen, is standing there. And so the assumption of this position of the Brisa at this point is to prohibit the sanctuary, because the Zar is not allowed to go into the sanctuary. He's only allowed to be in the courtyard. So Kamat Misham Makom Sharagli Zar Omdos. That's where the kmitza take place. This is a question against Rebbe Lazar. But Ben Beseira says, he has a different limud. He says, Minayin Shem Kamatz Besmol. This teaches us, how do you know that if you did the kmitza with your left hand, the Kohen was supposed to do the kmitza with the right hand? How do you know if you did the kmitza with your left hand? How do we know that you're supposed to go back and do it with your right hand? Tamor misham. From there, mimakom shekamatz kvar. From the place where you already did it, you go back and do a new kmitza. So anyway, but from the first part of the brisa, we have a question on Rebbe Lazar, because it proves that the kmitza is only taking place and the kmitza can only take place in the azara, not in the sanctuary. So the Gemara says, Ikad Amri. So some said, that Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question and he answered it. Ikad Amri, but others say a different way that it was answered. Amri Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Akiva responds to Rabbi Yirmiyah. Bar Tachlifa. I'll explain it to you. Why does it say that Mikamat Misham, from the place where the Zar is standing, he could do it? It wasn't to limit the sanctuary. It just tells us it doesn't need to be in the northern part of the courtyard where the Zar is not allowed to go, but to say they can be done in the whole courtyard. Because you might have thought, oh, the Ola Kodshe Kadashim, since the Ola is Kodshe Kadashim and the Mincha is Kodshe Kadashim, you might have thought Ma Ola to Unatzafon, just like the Korban Ola requires to be done in the northern part of the courtyard, of Mincha to Unatzafon. Also, the Mincha requires to be in the northern part of the courtyard. The Gemara says, why would you think that? Because there's a total difference between the Ola and the Mincha. Ma'al Ola Shekain Kolio. The Ola is entirely burnt, unlike the Mincha where you could eat the Shreim. Well, the Gemara says, well, mechatas. You might have learned that from the Chatas. The Gemara says, why would you think that? Ma'al Chatas Shekain Mechaperes. Chatas is totally different. Chatas serves as a kapara. So Amalei Chayvi Krisos. Excuse me. Ma'al Chatas Shekain Mechaperes Chayvi Krisos. And the Gemara says, okay, may Asham. We're not from the Asham. The Gemara says, you can't learn out Mincha from the Asham. Ma'al Asham Shekain Minei Damim. The Asham has blood that you throw, but the Mincha there's no blood. Mikul, we're not from all of them together. The Gemara says you can't. Malakul Shekem Minei Damim. All of them have blood, and the Mincha has no blood. Why would you think to learn out that the Mincha would have been in the north from all these karbanos? The Gemara says, oh, so why do we need to do it? Why do we need to exclude the north? So you might have thought because since it says by the karban Mincha, you have to do a gasha with the karban Mincha that you have to, the Kohen has to bring it to the southwest corner, as we'll see, of the Mizbeach, to the point there, and touch the Mizbeach. And then it says, Ve'irimi meno bikumtso, and then you do the Kemitza. The Kohen does the Kemitza. Ma'agasha b'kerem ma'ravistrum. It's just like the Agasha has to come to the southwest corner. Av Kemitza b'kerem ma'ravistrum. So you might have thought the Kemitza of the Kohen has to be in the southwest corner of the Mizbeach. So Kamash wants to know, we're being told it can be done in the entire courtyard. So therefore, it can't be to exclude the sanctuary, but it's to exclude the other parts of the courtyard. So it's not a question on Rebbe Lazar. Rabbi Yochanan says, okay, now that we've established that you can do the Kemitza and the Heichel according to Rebbe Lazar, but Rabbi Yochanan says a different chiddush. Rabbi Yochanan says Shlomim sheshachtem beheichel ksherim. The korban Shlomim that was actually slaughtered in the sanctuary. We know that Shlomim can be slaughtered in the whole courtyard. It comes along Rabbi Yochanan and says a Shlomim that was slaughtered in the sanctuary is kosher. How do we know this? Because it says v'shachtu Pesach Oel Moed, and it says you shall slaughter the korban Shlomim at the entrance to the Oel Moed. V'lo yeh tafel chamer min ha'ikar, and the Oel Moed is the tafel. It's not as great as the sanctuary itself. And so you can't say that the Oel Moed, which is the tafel, is more severe, that's kosher and the sanctuary is not. So therefore, if the Oel Moed is kosher for the shlita, for sure the sanctuary. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Beseira challenges Rabbi Yochanan Meisvei. Rabbi Yochanan ben Beseira, we have a Bryce, and not Rabbi Yochanan ben Beseira doesn't challenge it, but there's a question on Rabbi Yochanan from the Bryce of from the Bryce. So Meisvei, hold on one second. Let me see, there's a different girsa here. Let me just look on the side. And the different girsa, 1 second. Excuse me. That's why it was making more sense to me. Meisvei Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer. Bryce says Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira taught me Nayin Shemikifu Ovdei Kocham Maskolas. There are such a Havamina. So that Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, how do we know if such an ukimta that if the idolaters surrounded the whole courtyard and the Kohanim still want to eat their kodshim, the Kohanim want to eat their kodshim. How do I know Kohanim nichnasin l'sham va'ocham sham kodshim? How do I know that if the idolaters are attacking them and they're coming to attack them, that the Kohanim are allowed to go into the sanctuary to eat? So they're allowed to go. They're allowed to go into the Kodesh Kodashim to eat it. So why are they allowed to do it? So, but why don't we say the same thing there? That they have. So what's the source that they're allowed to do it? Why can't we say that it should only be in the courtyard, and therefore tafel cannot be more severe than the ikar? So we see from here that they're allowed to eat in the sanctuary, and so it's just like they're allowed to eat in the sanctuary. Also, they're allowed to do the shlita in the sanctuary. So the Gemara says, Hachi hashta. It's not the same thing. The Gemara says, Hachi hashta. Hasam. So the Gemara, it's not the same thing. Why is it not the same thing? Hasam avoda de adam over b'makom rabo. Amrina lo yetafel chamar min ha'ikar. Achila the ein adam ochal b'makom rabo lo yetafel chamar min ha'ikar lo amrina. So we need a pasuk. The Gemara's question is, why do you need a pasuk to tell us that you can't eat it in the that you can eat the food in the sanctuary? Why don't we derive it from the why don't we derive it from the fact, from this logic that you had tafel chamar min ha'ikar? The Gemara says no. When it comes to eating, we need a pasuk because there it's not the avoda. The avoda is the shchita, and so since we have to say that maybe you can't eat in the place of the Rebbe, in the place of the master here is Hashem in the sanctuary. Therefore, you need to have a pasuk to tell us that they're allowed to eat it in the sanctuary. But when it comes to the avoda, we don't need a pasuk. There, we just have the logic of oye tafel chamar min ha'ikar. As Rashi says, okay, so that's the logic there. Now up to the next Mishnah. And the Mishnah says, chatos ha'of, the bird offering that was brought as a sin offering. So there, Haisanasis al Karen Deromis Maravis, that was brought on the southwestern corner. Uvakoma Kom Haitak Shera. And in every place it really was kosher to be brought. It didn't have to be brought at the southwestern corner of the Mizbeach. Elazai Samakoma. But this was actually the place. Zai Samakoma. This was the actual place. Ushlosha Devarim Haisa Osa Karen Mishameshes. Milmata. Ushlosha Milmata. Bala. So that southwest corner of the Mizbeach served as three things below and three things above. Milamata, what was done on the bottom of the Mizbeach was chatas ha'of, the sin offering of the bird, va'agashos, the bringing close of the korban mincha, v'shiyarei adam, and the remnants of the blood, which were poured at the of the chatas chitzonius, which were poured at the base there. And what were the three things that were done above? The above was done the nisuch hayayin, the pouring of the wine. The nisuch hayayin was done every day. V'amayim, and the nisuch of the water, the pouring of the water on the top of the mizbeach, which was done on Sukkot, and also the olah sa'of and the olah sa'of, the bird offering that was an olah. That was done also on the top of the southwest corner, but only kishi rabba b'mizrach. When there was too many kohanim doing that in the east, or in part of the altar, they did that on the west. Kol mizbeach, olah derech yamin. And says the Mishnah continuing, whoever went up on the altar went up on the right side. He went up on the right side, and then umakifin, they would go around the Yordan derech small, and they would surround the altar and then go down on the left side, either for service, or to place the blam of the chatos, or to arrange the fire, or to flip over the limbs. And they would go down on the west side of the ramp, which is the left. And this was always on the left side when they went up. Chutz min ha'olah legimel elu, with the exception of the ones who went up for these three things, i.e., the nisuch hamayim, the nisuch hayayin, and also the olah sa'of. Except if you went up for these three, shayu olam v'yordan al Akev, that they quickly went up and they went straight there. Our Akev means to basically literally means the heel, but it means they went to the left right away. So Minan Emili, what's the source of this idea that the Chatas Ha'of is brought on the southwest corner of the Mizbeach? What's the source for it? Amar B'Yeshua, Amar Kra, it's based upon the fact that the Pasuk says, what's the source for the idea that the Chatas Ha'of is brought on the southwest corner? So Amar B'Yeshua, Amar Kra, it says, so it says you shall not put on this mincha of the sinner, which comes in place of the chatas ha'of. But this is by Rashi says by the one who's the dali dawas, the poor of the poor. Torah calls it a chatas, and it's teaching us that this chatas is called a mincha, and that the chatas can turn into a mincha, and that they have the same halacha. So you don't put oil on it, you don't put on frankincense because it's a chatas. Chatas kriya mincha. Mincha kriya chatas. So the chatas is called a mincha, and the mincha offering is called a chatas. Ma chatas tunatzafon. Just like the chatas requires to be done in the northern part of the mizbeach. Rashi says that this is Yodei Anisha Girsazu Shibush. I know that this is a like a text that's messed up because Sharei Chatas Ofon Minchato and Sofon, because they don't both require the northern part. So Rashi has a problem with this girsa, and he changes the girsa, and so and Rashi therefore says that the proper girsa is Machata Psula Shalolishma, Av Mincha Psula Shalolishma. That just like the chatas is brought with the wrong intent, it's disqualified. Also, the mincha brought with the wrong intent is disqualified. And ma chatas, ma mincha bekera ma ravis dromis, just like the mincha is in the southwest corner. So to the chatas, av chatas bekera ma ravis dromis. So to the chatas is brought in the southwest corner. The Gemara says mincha gufa minoan. How do we know that the mincha itself is in the southwest corner? The Gemara says, the Tanya, we learn out from the fact that it says Lifnei Hashem. It says it has to be brought before Hashem. Yachal b'mayrav, I might think it's brought in the west, just in the west, right when you come out of the sanctuary. Talmud Omar, the Tanya of Lifnei Hashem Yachal b'mayrav, Talmud Omar al Pnei Mizbeach, to the front of the altar. Al Pnei Mizbeach, if it's to the front of the altar, Yachal b'daram, I might think it's in the south. Talmud Omar Lifnei Hashem. So it says before Hashem, okay, said, Magisha Bekera Maravis Drumis, you bring the mincha to the southwest corner, Keneged Chuda, Shalkaren V'dayo. You just bring the mincha to the southwest corner opposite the sharp corner, and that will be sufficient. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Yachol Yagishenu L'Marava Shalkaren or Droma Shalkaren. I might think you just have to bring it to the south part of the horn or the west part of the horn. Amras kol makom shatam motzei shnei mikros. Whenever you have two psukim and echa mekayim atzmo mekayim chavero, and one of them you could interpret that pasuk and also the other one. Ve'echa mekayim atzmo v'ato chavero, and the other one you can only acquire it itself, but it would negate the other one. Manichan zesh mekayim atzmo. You leave aside the one that you can fulfill that one itself. Mevato chavero, and cancel out the other one. But Tosfin mekayim atro mechavero. You follow the pasuk which would allow you to follow it and also its friend. Shato mer pnei Hashem b'marav, when it says in the pasuk towards Hashem in the west. Hechan kiyamta al pnei hamizbeach. So how do you fulfill the other pasuk which says towards the front of the altar? Shato mer pnei hamizbeach b'daram. But when it says toward the pnei hamizbeach, when it says towards the front of the altar, which is in the south, then you fulfill b'nei bedarom kiyamto fnei Hashem bedarom echan kiyamto. So when you come, how do you do fnei Hashem? So how are you fulfilling that part of it? So it says Rav Ashi, because the whole altar is in the north. So when you're at the southwest corner, you're doing pnei Hashem and lefnei Hashem at the same time, because the whole altar is in the north, and so therefore you're opposite the entrance to the heichal. The Olas Of was really, so we said in our Mishnah that the Chatas Of was brought in the southwest corner, and really was kosher in every place, but this was its place. What does this mean? So the whole mizbeach, the whole place, you could do the malika, meaning to say you could always do the killing, whether above or below. You could do the malika, the killing of the animal. So this was the place where they would sprinkle from the blood of the bird onto the mizbeach. And Tanino the Tanarabana, we have a brayso that taught this. Malka b'kol makom b'mizbeach kshera. You could do the malika anywhere on the altar and be kosher. Hiza dam makom makom kshera. You could also do the hiza, the sprinkling, any place kosher. Hiza v'omitza kshera. But if you did the sprinkling, but not the pressing of the bird against the mizbeach, it'll be kosher. As long as some of the blood from the dama nefesh, from the lifeblood of the animal, came from below the midpoint line. My kamer, what's it saying? Achikamer, molka b'kol malkom b'mizbeach kshera. Mitzah dama b'kol malkom b'mizbeach kshera. If you did the malika anywhere in the altar, it's kosher. If you squeeze the blood anywhere on the mizbeach, it's kosher. Shema hizav will mitzah kshera, because you don't even, if you did the hizav without the mitzah kshera, but vachi te mekuta sikro amata midama nefesh. As long as some of the blood came from was sprinkled to the below the chuta sikra from the dama nefesh. Okay, that is today's daf yomi, a beautiful daf. Yasha koach to everyone.